Hello, everyone. I'm Casey Lyons. I'm the coordinator of social emotional learning for Evergreen Public Schools.
And my name is Jessica Greenwell. I am the counselor on special assignment here at Evergreen Public Schools.
And we are here to talk to you today about suicide awareness, particularly how to connect with your student, how to have difficult conversations. Today, our goals are to use the LEARN steps. LEARN is an acronym that we will use, and it will guide us in having these conversations about suicide. After this, you will feel comfortable having this kind of conversation. We also want to ensure that all of our families know where to turn when they are concerned about their young person.
So here's a few things that we do know about suicide. First of all, we know that suicide affects every single community here in Clark County and across the globe. We also know, and this one is really, really important, we know that asking about suicide, simply having a conversation with your student or with your neighbor or family member, it actually doesn't increase their likelihood for acting on those suicidal thoughts. In many instances, it actually can decrease the danger that is presented by suicide. We also know that suicide results from a ton of multiple complex factors, and there isn't just one singular factor that can predict suicide. We wanted to share a few things with you all just about what we do know about suicide. First of all, we know that suicide is the second leading cause of death among those ages 10 to 24. And that comes in just under accidental death, which can include drownings or car accidents. The second thing that we know is that youth suicides account for 15% of all suicides. So this is a large piece of the demographic of people who are dying by suicide. What you're looking at here is some of our data from our 2023 Healthy Youth Survey. If you look at this graph, it's saying that our 8th graders, our 10th graders, and our 12th graders, we're seeing about 3 out of every 10 student who is saying that they're feeling so sad or helpless almost every day for 2 weeks or more in a row that they stopped doing some usual activities in the past year. These numbers here are saying that our Evergreen Public School students who are in 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade, almost 2 out of every 10 students is reporting having seriously considered suicide in the past year. So this is something that is directly affecting the students that are in our schools right now. This one is interesting. So half of our students are saying that they have an adult, someone in their community that they know they can go and talk to if they have something important that they need to talk to an adult about. But what that also means is that almost 4 to 5 of our students out of every 10 students don't have that adult who they know that they could go and talk to if they're feeling unsafe about something or if they need help navigating something important in life. This information comes specifically from what we call a suicide assessment. And when students come to our counselors and they're saying, hey, I am feeling unsafe, or I am thinking, I'm having thoughts of wanting to end my life, our school counselors and social workers go through these assessments with our students and they ask them a series of questions. What this graph here says is that our number one grade band who is having these thoughts of not wanting to be alive right now are 5th graders, which was very surprising to us as we learned this information. Normally, when we think about students having thoughts of not wanting to be alive anymore, we tend to think that those questions start happening at the middle school and high school level. But we actually have younger students, our 9 and 10-year-olds, who are starting to ask these questions now.
All right, so we can change some of our language when we talk about suicide. Instead of saying committed suicide, we really want to say things like died by suicide or took their own life. This honors this person who has passed and those who have been impacted by those who have died by suicide. So you heard Jessica talk about the why. We know that suicide impacts our community. We know that roughly 1 in 5 students has at some point thought about taking their own life. So now we're going to get into our model, and this is the LEARN model, and we're going to walk through what each letter stands for. But as you can see here, we have look for the signs, empathize and listen, ask about suicide, and remember what Jess said at the beginning, asking about suicide does not cause suicide. Then we're going to get into reducing the danger and reaching out for help and moving on to next steps. So we'll start with looking for the signs. There are several different ways that we can go about looking at the signs. We can look at changes in how our students or our children are feeling. We can look at their behaviors and also knowing about some of the experiences that they are living through. So we'll start with emotions and feelings. Whenever we notice that kids are having a heightened sense of depression or anxiety, we want to start asking some questions. If we are seeing that they're starting to feel hopeless, they're giving up, they're not seeing a reason to get up or to do their work, we definitely want to start asking some questions. Unusual mood swings can be important to note, knowing that growing up is also full of mood swings. We're really looking at that unemotional or the unusual mood swings. Shame, humiliation, those are huge emotions that we really want to be aware of. It's important to note that this is not an exhaustive list in any of these categories. What we're really looking at is changes in a student's behavior. And that leads us to the actual behaviors that we want to be concerned about. So a student withdrawing, isolating, substance use, giving away prized possessions, that can be a sign that they are thinking about ending their life. If they have access to lethal means, and we're going to get into that more in our R step of reducing the harm, how can we make our homes more safe? If they're frequently joking or making statements about ending their life, we want to start asking some questions. If they are participating in self-injury, we also want to investigate that more. And if they're making threats that they are going to harm themselves or others, we definitely want to be having conversations. Sometimes we become aware of experiences that our kids are going through, and these experiences can cause them to have changes in their emotions, and they can cause their behaviors to change. Experiences might not seem that big to us, but they can be very big to our students. So the loss of friendship groups, the loss of a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a romantic relationship, to a young person, these can feel like huge events, and they might not have the skills to deal with them. Things happening in our homes can also have a big impact on our kids. So being there for your students and talking with them through these experiences can be a very, very positive thing. Now we're going to get into the E step, empathize and listen. So this really is all about how we have conversations with our kids in really non-judgmental ways. And as a parent, this can be tricky. Our kids often are going through things that we went through as kids, and we think, that's not that rough. I went through it. And it's super important that we remain non-judgmental when we have these conversations. So we want to lean in really heavy on this idea of empathy. So we want to do our best to see the world as our kid is seeing it. So not from this adult perspective of, oh, I went through that too, but from their perspective of, oh, this is super, super tough right now. We want to be non-judgmental and we want to validate their feeling. So validating can be difficult, but also super affirming to our kids. So I understand what you're going through and that seems so difficult. And I always like to tell my own kids or students who I talk to, thank you. Thank you for sharing with me what it is that you are going through. And through all of this, we are doing our best to communicate understanding. So again, I just want to reiterate some helpful things to say. I'm so glad you told me this. Please tell me more. And I'm always here. I'm always listening.
Yeah, so the looking for signs and the empathizing, that kind of sets you up to be able to get to the crux of the conversation, which is how do we actually ask the question about suicide? I know that this can be just a really difficult question to ask. And so as we're going through this presentation, sometimes it actually can be helpful to say these things out loud, to actually practice saying these things just because they are really difficult to say. So the first thing, when do we ask these questions? If there are multiple signs that we went through in the looking for signs section, or if there's just that nagging sense in your brain of I'm worried about my kid, it is always okay just to ask. And we're going to talk through how to actually ask that question in just a few minutes. But when you're also seeing big changes in a person's life or behavior, and when your gut tells you to, right? We just want to ask the question. So how do we ask it? We're going to ask really, really directly. Especially when you're asking this question to younger kids or to really anyone. We don't want to use language of, have you thought about making things go away forever? Or have you thought about falling asleep and never waking up? We want to be very, very specific and clear with the questions that we are asking our kids. And what that can look like is simply, are you thinking about suicide? And if you don't think that your child is old enough to know what suicide is, then it can be, are you thinking about killing yourself to where you would die forever? Right? So we want to use really clear and concrete language when we are talking about this with our students. This takes a lot of courage. And so I think also being willing to take a deep breath before you're having to ask these questions is important. And being courageous so that we can help keep our kids safe. Like, I don't think there's any higher calling for us as adults who care about kids. This is one of my favorite ways of asking this question. Sometimes, so you're actually pairing that empathy and the, hey, I've been listening to you statements with this direct question of asking about suicide. So simply saying, hey, sometimes when people are feeling sad, sometimes when people have overwhelming things happen, like the bullying or the loss of that friendship that you just had happen, and sometimes when people start saying, hey, life just feels really hopeless right now, they are thinking about suicide. Are you thinking about suicide right now? Are you thinking about ending your life right now? That can be just a really good way to to ease into the conversation. And again, validating what you have heard your child or the student that you're talking to, what you've heard them say. So here's what people are usually worried about is, what if my kid says yes and what if they say no? So we're gonna talk about that next. So if your child says, no, I'm actually not thinking about killing myself, we want to stay neutral and non-judgmental at that moment. We let them know that we care. I'm so glad that you told me this. I really care about you, and I really want to support you in whatever is going on for you. Sometimes we have that little nagging feeling inside of us as adults where it's like, I don't actually know that my child is telling me the truth or that this young person is telling me the truth. And so if that nagging sense is in you, just keep asking for more information. And sometimes it's okay to ask again, hey, I know that you said that you weren't thinking of ending your life. And then I'm hearing all of this that you're saying, hey, things feel really hopeless right now. And I just want to ask again, are you sure that you're not having thoughts about wanting to end your life, right? If it's still no, then we want to move on to the R in the end steps, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. Okay, so if they say yes, first of all, we have to take a deep breath at these moments. As people who love the young people in our lives, it gets really scary when we hear that things are so dark for the person that we love, that they truly are thinking about ending their life. And so taking a deep breath and also remembering inside of you that this is the first step for you to be able to help them get the help that they need. Okay? So the first thing we want to do after we've taken that breath is to stay neutral and non-judgmental. And we want to take it really seriously. It costs a young person something to tell the truth about wanting to end their lives. And so we always need to take it seriously of, I'm so glad you told me, we are going to get the help that you need, right? Thanking them for their honesty is important. Acknowledging the pain that they're in. So those empathy statements of, I can tell things feel so dark for you right now. I'm so glad you told me what's going on. Let's talk about how we can get you help, right? And then we're going to move on to the R and the N steps. This piece is really critical too. After you have gotten your young person safe, we want you to get the support that you need for yourself. Because again, listening and hearing that your young person is in so much pain, that takes a toll on us as caregivers as well. And so that's an important piece in this step too.
And I'm going to just stop right here. In case there are any kids that are watching this and you talk to a friend and you're concerned about your friend, and maybe you go through these steps and you ask them if they're considering ending their life, they're considering suicide, and your friend tells you not to tell anyone. So I just want to say, please tell someone. Saving a life is more important than breaking a temporary trust. And I really want you to think about it that way. If you are concerned about a friend, there are counselors in your building that you can go and talk to. And parents, if you are concerned about your child, please reach out to your counselor as well. And we can help connect you to the resources that are needed. Now we'll go into this R step, reducing the danger. And this is, how do we keep our kids safe? So we know if a student, your child, is thinking about suicide, we want to limit the access that they have to act on that. So oftentimes we will ask if they have a plan, and that will help us determine how to reduce the danger. So we have some important follow-up questions. Have you thought about how you might end your life? Once again, we're really trying to lean in there to see if they have a plan. Do you have any access to those methods? And as a parent, you might not need to ask this question. Your job is to look around your house and to see if the access is in your house. Have you thought about when you might do this? This gives you some sort of a timeline, and this can help you take the next steps. We know that an important part of preventing suicide is putting time and distance between the suicidal person and the methods that they might use to take their life. So, parents, I would like you to know that at the district office, we do have some ways for you to keep your home safer if you need them. You can also buy these on your own, but we do have some that we have had given to us to hand out. So we right now do have a supply of gun locks. So if you are concerned about safety in your home, we can provide you with a couple gun locks. We also have a ways for you to lock up your medicines and sharp objects. So we have lock bags and lock boxes that we can provide to families to keep their homes more safe. So when you're looking at your homes, these are some things that you want to think about. Firearms, are they locked up? And we want to make sure that youth have very limited access. And I know that this can be difficult, particularly when we think about our older teenagers who regularly use firearms and go out to shooting ranges with their families. We want to ensure that they do remain locked up in the home, because once again, the main thing we want to do is create distance between a person who might be thinking about taking their own life and access. Medications. Look around your home. Do you have medications that could be dangerous that are out and about that kids can access? When I talk about our own homes, I also like to talk about the fact that you probably have other kids in your house and you don't know what's going on in their heads. So yes, you're keeping your home safe for your own children, but you're also keeping your home safe for other kids who are coming to hang out at your house. So some things that you can do today: lock it up. Lock up those firearms, prescription medicines, over-the-counter medicines. Also, think about other things, especially if your kid has told you that they are thinking about taking their own life. Be aware of where the alcohol or drugs are in your own home. Are there things that could be used for strangulation? Belts, ropes, plastic bags? Are there certain sharps that should be locked up? And oftentimes what we counsel parents to do if they are concerned about these things and they don't have the adequate way to lock them up, put it in the trunk of your car and hide the key. Once again, we're going to temporarily create distance between a person who's been thinking about taking their own life and the means to do so. Next steps. This is important. We can't leave our kids. They've told us this very important, hard, difficult news. What are the next steps after we've looked around and reduced the danger? Feel free to reach out to your school counselor and they can help guide you through some next steps. Another thing you can do, reach out to your pediatrician. They also will help connect you with therapeutic services. You're also might be thinking, wow, this is a big crisis situation, reach out to your doctor. They will help you determine next steps. Sometimes the emotional distress is so intense for our young people that they might need immediate help. And your doctor will help walk you through that to determine if you should go immediately to the hospital to get your child the help that they need. There's crisis lines out there. We're going to have all this information on a slide coming up, but there are lines you can call to get help for yourself as well as help for your child. One of the things I really like to do when I talk to young people, even if they tell me that they're not right now thinking about taking their life, I know they're going through some emotional turmoil. I know they're going through big life events. So one of the things I want to make sure is that they have a phone number in their phone. So I have them save it in their contacts to our crisis line, to the suicide line, something they can call in case things get worse. It's right there. It's ready to go. They don't have to look it up on the internet. It's just there. So this is some of that information that I was talking about. We have the 988 crisis line. There's a texting line that you see there. You can text HEAL to 741-741. Hear Me Washington is very, very beneficial, particularly if you're worried about somebody else. So if you hear from maybe your child that they're concerned about another kid, you can tell Hear Me Washington. Schools will get alerted and we can act on those next steps. The Trevor Project is great for our students and families in the LGBTQ plus community. They have a wealth of resources for those students and families as well. All right, with that, we want to say thank you to everyone.
Yes, thank you so much.
We realize that this is a very difficult topic to listen to. So we just want to remind folks to take a deep breath, maybe go out and take a walk, and keep connecting with your kids. Keep the lines of communication open and reach out to your school counselors or to Jess or myself if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.